Listen, on the Morning Hustle, we talk to a lot of hustlers, and this guy's been grinding for a long time. Whether you remember him from his days with the Source magazine, which was like the Bible of hip hop, to get co-signed in that thing, man, means you was about to be up and out of here. To this new situation he has in the podcast world with Breakbeat. One time for Dave Mays. What's going on, Chief?
Man, everything's good, Crack, man. Great to be on the show. Thanks for having me. Uh, Good to
No
see you.
doubt. Now you've been hand in hand with the culture for a long time.
Yeah.
And I always love to see people reinvent themselves as the business evolves. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people know you from the Source magazine. Now here we are in the wild, wild west of the podcasting space, and you're offering something that is like, unique and authentically hip hop and breakbeat, man. Tell us about it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, when I look at the landscape out here now, even though, when I started the Source, it was 1988, and there was no media for hip hop, no, anything, talk about the Wild Wild West, like you said, it was, definitely that back then. And 30 years later, hip hop has obviously grown leaps and bounds. It's the biggest force on the planet, probably, and but when you look at the media space and when you look at what's going on with podcasting, it is this kind of wide open new frontier that I believe is going to continue to grow and become kind of really a driving force in media as a whole. I think podcasting is going to really become that. It's kind of convergence of radio and TV and different things all kind of rolling up into one. And the other thing that I saw with the podcast network is a podcast network is basically the digital magazine of today. People have talked about that word, the term digital magazine for years now. We've heard it ever since the internet came out, but there's never been a successful digital magazine. And so when I started thinking about how to create this new network for the hip hop community, I really saw, podcasting and a podcast network, because you can kind of take the sections of a magazine, but bring them to life digitally. So if in the Source, we had a column on, fashion, a column on politics, a column on sports, a column on business, health, those are now podcasts under the new Breakbeat Network that are going to cover the world comprehensively, but from the perspective of the hip hop community.
Sometimes I wish we had the ability to, just see where the culture was going from back then. Because just imagine how live a reality check podcast would have been. You know what I'm saying? Like, back in the days when, I was still doing the magazine thing, super tough. And even with the mic rating system. So like under Breakbeat, like, is there anything that gives you any of that nostalgic feel from some of the things that you've crafted, with the Source magazine, transferring it over to Breakbeat?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things. What I'm doing with Breakbeat, it's a multimedia podcast network. So we're doing different types and formats of podcasts. So we have like the first podcast out that's doing great already is Don't Call Me White Girl. Most of your, listeners and viewers will probably know her. She's been blowing up on social media the last few years. Why You Being Weird to Me. She's an incredible talent. I think she's going to be one of the biggest female kind of personalities in the culture over the next few years. I'm doing another show that's launching in December with Funny Marco. Also, like, this incredible talent that we've, all been following on Instagram the last few years. He's been, giving us laughs after laughs with all his pranks and skits and stuff. But I think he's also someone that's just a really special talent that's going to be able to grow and do all kinds of things. So, when I think about Don't Call Me White Girl and Funny Marco, I kind of think about them as the unsigned hype of break. And, unsigned hype, meaning, they're not rappers. Unsigned hype was the column, for those that don't know, in the Source magazine that we started in 1990. And we would review demo tapes of unsigned artists that people would mail into us from all over the country. And through that column, it's one of the most legendary columns in the history of magazines, because we discovered Biggie, we discovered DMX, Common, Mobb Deep, Capone and Noriega, Eminem, Jay Electronica, Wale, Pitbull, many, many others got their starts in unsigned hype before they ever had their record deals. So then paralleling that is I'm doing kind of documentary style podcasts. That's a whole other side of the podcast world that hip hop really hasn't, kind of made its mark in yet. We have a lot of great hip hop podcasts already, but not in that area of the kind of narrative storytelling format. So I've got two series underway right now. One is the story of the Unsigned Hype column. So we're telling
Dope.
as an 8-part series, the whole backstory, all the people that worked at the source and how we found Biggie's demo and how, we brought it to Puff and that's how he got signed. A lot of people don't even know that the source is the reason that Biggie got signed, and many other artists. So that's an 8-part series that we're dropping a trailer in December, and the series will launch in the first quarter. And the other big one is the Larry Hoover story. We're telling Larry's life story as a 10-part documentary podcast series. As you probably know, Larry has an incredible story. It's never been told. I mean, it's never been told in any kind of authentic, complete fashion. He's always just, pigeonholed as, one thing, but there's so
Right.
much more to his story and the history of things here in Chicago and why things are the way they are in Chicago today. All of those are things that we'll be exploring and talking about in this 10-part exclusive series. And him and his family, participated in this for the first time. They trusted me and Breakbeat to tell his story officially for the first time. So that also a trailer is coming in December, and the series will drop in the new year.
Yo, and it's beautiful how all of this energy is surrounding Larry Hoover right now. I know you've probably at this point have seen like the conversations that Drake, Kanye West, and Jay Prince have been having about doing like a benefit concert just to bring more awareness about that. Are y'all involved in that in any way, size, shape, or form as well?
Yeah. I mean, we're close with what's going on with the family and the efforts to free Larry, which is what the whole Kanye and Drake thing is about. He deserves to be freed. He's legally entitled to be freed under the law, but they making things up to keep him there. A lot of people believe him to be a political prisoner,
Indeed.
including me. I also believe, as a lot of people do, that if he were let out, he could have a positive impact on things because he just has had that kind of influence for so long and carried that respect. So yeah, we're hoping to probably try to debut the trailer at the concert next month, which we're working hard to try to finish that up and get it ready. But yeah, hopefully he has a chance still to get released. They're working on his appeal right now from the decision a couple months ago that barred him from being released.
Fingers crossed, hoping for the best outcome with that. Now, we're always looking for new content to tap in and listen to. What's the best way to get a hold of the Breakbeat content? Does it start with downloading an app, or is it just like, a pocket of, podcasts under the different podcasting apps that pre-exist? Like, how do we get to it?
Sure. Well, there's kind of like two ways for the audio versions of our podcast. You can find them on all the podcast apps. So that's Apple, Spotify, wherever you might listen to audio podcasts. You can search Breakbeat Media, or you can search right now Don't Call Me White Girl. We also have a show, tremendous show called Culturati, hosted by Kira Mayo, that's out right now. And then we have the Breakbeat Media YouTube channel, where the visual versions of our shows are living. So you can just search that up on YouTube, and you'll find us there. So yeah, that's the distribution for now. We have a technology side of Breakbeat that we're going to introduce next year and add some new things to our platform as well.
Now, how does like a podcaster get on the radar of Breakbeat to possibly be one of these shows that you guys champion?
Yeah, I mean, I've personally, been scouting talent, just had my eye on people on social media and other places over the last few years. That's kind of how I found Don't Call Me White Girl, and of course, Funny Marco and people like that. So, I mean, you can reach out to us. Our website is breakbeatmedia.com. There's a way you can email us through there, or you can contact us through our social medias platforms and submit your stuff. We're definitely looking for new shows, new talent. That's what we want Breakbeat to be, kind of a hub for the hip hop community and for talent and creatives. We think we can provide a real home. If you love hip hop and and hip hop is the culture that's influenced your life. The one thing I want to say also about the mission of the platform is, it's about kind of bridging the gaps across the generations. That's really the opportunity that I see, because I feel like there's been a narrative pushed through the music that's dividing the older and the younger sides of the hip hop generation. So you get that, this mumble rap isn't real hip hop, and the younger people, oh, you guys are just out of touch or old or whatever. And while the musical taste of somebody who's 50 years old that grew up on hip hop and somebody that's 20 years old that grew up on hip hop, they may not be the same. They may not like the same music. But as you know, hip hop is a mindset. It's a way of thinking. It's a way that you feel when you watch things on the news or sports or whatever. We have a cultural bond in our community. And I think that's what's being overlooked, that the 20-year-old and the 50-year-old have much more in common when it comes to the way they think about social justice or the way they think about other things going on in this world. And that's really what I'm trying to tap into with Breakbeat and bring us together, because if we can unify across the generations, hip hop would be way more powerful than it is.
Absolutely unstoppable. Real quick, going back into the HipHop Bag for a minute, there's a lot of albums that you guys rated back in the day. Was there something that aged a lot better than you anticipated, and you would have given it a higher mic rating now if you had the chance to do it again?
Yeah, what I'll say is, the mic ratings were very highly respected. As you know, I mean, almost every major artist would go in the studio in the 90s with the goal, I got to make a 5 mic album. And, artists would bring their music up to us, bring us down to the studio to play their stuff and get feedback and that sort of thing. And, we did a great job. We were accurate a lot of the time with our ratings, but as you point out, we did overlook some things. So, for example, The Chronic, which is my favorite hip hop album probably of all time, and probably the most influential hip hop album, it got 4.5 mics. So we were close, but it didn't get the 5 that it deserves. Same thing. There's a few others. We actually went back some years later, in the later years that I was at the Source, and we upgraded a bunch of albums that got 4 or 4.5 and re-rated them as 5. So there are a number of examples like that of ones that we didn't quite hit the mark, but there's also lots of ones, that we did.
Yeah, spot on, man. But Dave Mays, continue to evolve, grow, hustle, and give the culture something to shoot at, man. We love it. Breakbeat is the new platform, man. If you like hip hop content and podcasts, be sure you tap in. And if people want to follow you, where do they go, bro?
Yeah, for Breakbeat is at Breakbeat Media on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube is Breakbeat Media, and then for me, I'm at The Real Dave Mays on Instagram, Twitter, everything else.
There it is, man. Thank you so much for your contributions. Appreciate you pulling up, man. We'll tap in soon.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to you too. I've been following what you've been doing for years. I love what you've been doing, and also the Morning Hustle as a whole. I love your platform. You guys are doing an amazing job. So really appreciate you guys having me on.
Man, thank you for pulling up on us, man. See you in the future later, brother.
We are the Morning Hustle.